Right, folks, welcome to a conversation with my friends in the Weg Einer Freiheit. Gentlemen, I thought maybe as just to get us started, you could all introduce yourselves and tell us what you do in the band.
Yeah, sure. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for being here. I'm Nikita. I'm the vocalist and guitarist in the band.
My name is Toby and I play the drums.
I'm Nico and I play bass. I'm also called Nico and I play guitar.
So, when you and I last spoke, Nikita, we were talking on the release day of Nocturn, which we'll go into detail on it in a bit, but it was a very brave record for the band to be putting out. From the album cover through to every single thing you were through to the music, through to the lyrics. But now that you've had 2.5 years to live with the record and to play shows in support of the material that was on the album, how do you feel about that release as a singular work of art, but also as what its place is within the Weg Einer Freiheit discography?
I would say that with this album, the plan rather was to play a few more catchy songs in a way. Like shorter songs, more straight to the point, more catchy melodies. Also release music videos, which we didn't have done before, and the studio documentary. So there were many new things that we wanted to create with that album, and of course also the album artwork, which was very polarized a little bit because it's actually so basic. It's just this gradient and purple. So one could say not really black metal, but as much people didn't like it, as many people actually really loved it, and we're very proud of it to have taken that step actually in that direction, and it opened up basically new doors for us here and there, and also having these tours, especially last year, the very big tour with Igor and Amon-Ra. It was all possible with this kind of new direction, I think, the band took with that album.
What was the thinking behind doing all of those different things? Behind, was that the record label giving you that guidance? Was it something that you guys wanted to do? I guess what was the driving force, the motivation behind taking that step up in so many different facets of what the band does and of the album release cycle?
Definitely, there was actually no pressure from the outside, not from the label, from the fans or anyone. But I had the impression, as the main songwriter, that I wrote 4 albums before Nocturn that basically not all the same, of course, but they were all very large songs, very long songs, and I just wanted to try doing these more catchy songs and how people react to it. And it could have been like people don't like it at all. Maybe some people didn't realize at all. But in the end, it was like an experience I wanted to gather at one point in the band's career, and it showed me that it actually didn't have so much impact on the reviews we received or the reception from the fans. They liked it as much as the other albums, and that actually showed us that we can do actually whatever we want, or we can try out different things without the fear of losing a following or something like that.
You guys have always had, I think, a very interesting relationship with the critics. I think the relationship you have with your fans is different, but with critics, many of them seem to always catch up to what you've done about 2 years later. I remember reading a review for Nocturn, and the person says, when Finsterre came out, I did like it. Now, 2 years later, I think it's great. And then he goes on to say, I don't like Nocturn. And you would assume that, probably 2.5 years later, maybe that individual's had a change of heart. But is that something that you're aware of? Is that an accurate observation?
I mean, I think everyone's taste changes over the time, and it can be 2 years. I listen to an album and don't like it after 2 years, or the other way around. So it's just a normal thing, I guess. And I think for me, for our band, it's important to try out new things and to, as I said, gain the experience, how people react to it, to get get this experience into the new songs, into the new creations that we are doing in the future. That's the most important thing for me as an artist, to grow in a way, not doing everything again, over and over again.
It's something I wanted to ask you actually, like these changes, doing something that is creatively quite bold and quite experimental as far as the band's musical blueprint is concerned. Is that born out of necessity, or is there a different motivation at work there? I think from the conversations I've had with you, my guess would be you don't seem to me to be somebody who likes to stand still and stay in one place for very long. So it's almost an existential thing that you should be pushing it forward. But I don't want to make assumptions. So you comment on that.
That's the point, actually. Yeah. I mean, in life, I think, everyone is fed up with things that are repeating itself. And I mean, if it's good things, it's cool. But for me, standing on one point, not moving, especially in art, is not what I'm aiming for. It's not fulfilling for me, and
So let's talk a bit about the themes around Nocturn, because again, I'm going to refer back to when we spoke. For anyone who wants to hear that, it's episode 107 of Into the Necrosphere. A very long, very lengthy, and very insightful conversation. But I've been interested the last couple of years looking at albums that came out around 2021, 2022, records that were written during the pandemic, almost certainly had some degree of the angst and the frustration caused by the pandemic reflect in what they ended up sounding like. And Nocturn to me was a really, it was a very emotive record and really sort of spoke to the time that it came from. Talk me through some of the creation of the record, the process that you went through to create the album, and actually whether or not I am correct in my read of some of those external influences coming into your thought process as you were crafting those songs.
I must say that I think, thinking back, half of the songs maybe were written before the pandemic actually. But for the songs that were written in the pandemic, I can definitely say that this kind of isolation, that being for yourself, being alone with your own thoughts, which we were all forced to be actually at some point, this was definitely influencing the lyrics, but maybe also the overall tone, the overall atmosphere of the album, which is, as the lyrics were written all in the night, for example, to maintain like a dark feeling in solitude, because at night normally you're sleeping, you're alone, you're for yourself, you're maybe in your dreams. And in the song Monument, for example, I'm writing about a repeating dream that I have. For example, flying through the air from the top of the mountain to the sea, and it's all written in the lyrics. And that is, was an important expression for me in that time. Maybe because everyone was like, you go to the groceries, you see depressed people, you see everyone, well, what the fuck is going on, and how do we get out of this actually? Of course, right now we're, in a way, we made it, you could say, more or less, good or bad. But by that time, I mean, everyone knows how hard it was for everyone.
That idea of writing all of the lyrics at night and of just the overall, themes of existentialism, the isolation, all that sort of stuff. Aside from the pandemic, because you mentioned having written some of the songs prior to that, what first gave you the idea? What was the sort of the spark that lit the flame creatively for you to come up with that?
That's always a very tricky question, I say. There has never been a preconceived concept behind an album. Rather, I start with a piece of paper, basically, with nothing written on it, and then try to have the album write itself. Bring to the paper. Let's start with one dot or one letter or one word, and then take it from there. And suddenly, the concept creates itself. It's hard to describe. It sounds weird.
It sounds like devil worship.
But that's how I write music, and that's how I think life is writing the music, the art, the lyrics, and that's the interesting thing for me, actually. That because I can never tell what the future brings, what I'm feeling like in 2 years or 3 years or something like that. So every album is a restart in a way.
Has that always been your approach to writing music?
Yeah, basically, if I think back, it was always like that. There was never not reading that much books, actually. This is not a big inspiration. It was back then for Finsterre, but there is not a concept or something behind a certain song. It just creates during the song, during the creation process.
This isn't something we touched on when we spoke, and I'm kind of blown away by it in the sense that I can imagine it must be personally very, very challenging to strip away whatever guards we put up and creatively express emotions the way that you're describing them there. So at what point do you, what stimulates that creativity? Is there specific things that you need to be doing? I think all of us in our day jobs know, for example, in my day job, I know if I'm stuck on something, if I go and take a walk, I can map out an entire, boring shit PowerPoint presentation in my head. But you know what I mean? It's like there's these specific things that really get your creativity going. So, firstly, let me firstly ask: is this something like this way of writing? Is it something that you had to work at consciously, or that you had to refine over the years? That'll be the first part of the question.
Okay, definitely it's a hard task, and we just finished actually writing the 6th album, and I found out at the beginning of the writing process, I was like, again, I had this blank piece of paper, and I thought what am I actually doing? And I started with anything. You can open up a book and take one word, put it on there, and then the album creates itself. It's really weird, and I always wonder why I'm not thinking about a preconceived concept, because it could make things easier, but in the end it could also color the album, which I personally don't want it to be. I want to let the album write itself.
I was about to say, so in some ways you almost don't know what the album's going to end up sounding like until it's actually done.
Yeah, and I know, and that way I get to know myself way better, because I can't predict what is going to be and what I am going to be and what is coming out of me and what I'm thinking about and my emotions. Just my way of working. It's very hard, but it's fulfilling at the same time, very, very much. If I think back to the album that we've written right now, I think okay, let's do it again next time like that.
So when did creativity, or when did the creative process start to manifest in your life? How old were you when you wrote your first song, for example?
It was after watching the movie Mars Attacks, actually. And that must be in the 90s. Maybe I was 6 years old or something like that. And it's not a real song, of course, it's just a few piano notes. And I wrote it down on a piece of paper and I still have it.
Which sounds like the average Beyonce song, so.
So basically that was my first song, but the real songs I started writing when I started playing the guitar, which was in 2004, so I was 16 years old.
And what made you decide to pick up a guitar?
Yeah, tricky question actually. Basically, probably the bands I listened to back then, it was a lot of new metal, MTV influenced pop culture stuff like Limp Bizkit, System of a Down actually. And that's how I learned the guitar. And I just wanted to sound like, find out how that works. And then picked up a guitar. 1 year later, it started with, I don't know, Dimmu Borgir, Amon Amarth, like basic, rather commercialized metal bands, and then I got into the rabbit hole pretty quickly.
And so that approach to writing songs, when you obviously you picked up a guitar and you were starting to write stuff when you were in your teens, was that always there? Is it something that you kind of discovered over time, works for you? How did that develop?
At the very start, I just covered songs I like, of course, which I think everyone does at the beginning. But I think already in the first half year or something like that, I started to write and also record actually the first songs through my mini disc recorder, which had 2 inputs. I don't know why, but it had, and so I could plug in a guitar and play a second, like an overdub on it, and that also created maybe or was the first the first spark in the job I'm doing today as a music producer actually. It was very, very early that I also created my own stuff.
So I want to draw the other gentleman around the table into this conversation. Are you guys ever surprised by the material that he brings to you and says, right, this is the direction of travel for the new album? Like, for example, we think of Nocturn. When he brought a song like Immortal to the table and said, okay, I've written this, what was your response to it? Because that song to me, it was such a bold statement putting that out as a single, because it was so different to anything that you'd done before. I can imagine if I were in a band and somebody had written that and we were playing a certain style of music and I heard it the first time, I'd go, yeah, I don't know where this is. I don't know what direction we're going in here. So what was your response to hearing something like that when you hear these kind of creative curveballs that he undoubtedly throws at you? How do you process that?
So I think for me the first one I ever heard from Nocturn was Haven, and I was blown away. I fell in love with the song right away, and then it was more like I was disappointed when I heard the first actual metal song on the record. I was like, okay, I thought there would be songs like this stuff from the first one, and with them
we're doing another black metal album.
But with some of those songs I had a similar thing like you mentioned with the critiques. They had to grow on me. It took a while to get into them, but not with Immortal and Haven. They have, like, from the first time I heard them, I was like, wow, that's awesome. Really love it.
It was like that for you?
Yeah.
Funny, because for me it was the other way around. Like Haven, at the beginning I liked it, and I think I could understand and appreciate the idea. But then when you sent us the first demo of Immortal, I thought, okay, like you said, where are we heading with this new album? And it took me quite some time to understand the song and the vision. And I can remember that you already told us like the basic structure of the whole album. So you said like the first song would be like this, second would be like this, and so on. So as usual, I trusted in his work and in his vision, I would say. And the songs that followed up, like, they made immediately sense to me. And after some time I really understood the concept of the whole album, and I really also fell in love with it, but it took some time.
Yeah, actually Immortal and Haven were really the first songs that were written for the album, and these are the songs that are the most experimental ones. So yeah, I also from the first words I received from the guys, I was like, oh shit, what I'm doing now. But as you could see, there are also more traditional songs on the album, which doing 180-degree turn with the band with a new album. I'm not sure if it's the right move. So you should go step by step, and that was actually also one of the goals for that album we wanted to do.
Tobias, you are the longest serving member in the band, aside of course from Nikita. You two have been working together for over a decade. What is it about your relationship, your friendship that has been led to so much productivity? But equally as given the fact that there's been some changes elsewhere in the band, like you two have stayed connected, you two have kind of kept the core of the band intact. What is it? What do you think is the magic ingredient that keeps you guys together?
I would say it's the roles we play in the band. Like Nikita wrote 95% of everything, like not only guitars, bass, and vocals, but also the drums. And in his studio, and he sends me the demos. But my role in the band is like not a creative role, creative in another way. But I try to realize what he has in mind, and it's a very different process. It's a lot of problem solving. I usually need like 1 year approximately per album in preparation to actually make it happen and make it musical in a way. So I feel like Nikita is more like an architect, and I'm more like the engineer that tries to realize the project.
So, Nikita, a question for you. How much, when you've written a song, and I think this is particularly important when you think about your own creative process, and I think how emotionally connected you are to the music that you write, but when you've written something, how much external, and I say external in the context of the band, how much external adjustments, modifications, evolution would you allow in from the three gentlemen sitting to your right?
Yeah, that's a crucial part in every process, actually. In the past I tended to write a song and do all the details, do everything like 99%, and then you getting really a lot, getting critics is hurting you actually a lot more than if you are writing a song like just 50%, like the structure, for example, but not the individual melodies or drum parts or anything. And then you get a critic and you can combine it into the songs. And that what we actually did with the new album that is coming out next year probably. I didn't finalize the whole song how I have it in my mind. But rather have the basic structure written, send it to the other guys, and then take that feedback into the following process. And that was a very, very cool process, actually. Of course, we're not a band who's writing songs in a rehearsal space because we're all living not close to each other, and that's not possible. But that process still allowed the band to. Even if they just say, "Hey, that sounds cool. I'm excited about where we're heading," that gets me the position to know actually, okay, I'm on the right way. I just keep on doing. But they were also like, well, that part doesn't work for me. Maybe skip it, or maybe do another ending or another intro or something like that. So we worked on that. It was also a collaborative process, which we did not on the pre-Nocturn albums that were really like just me in my small room and avoiding every feedback from the outside, actually.
Oh, now you have an opportunity to put out a press release when the new album comes out and says Tobias would like to apologize for all the parts of this record you don't like. You mentioned again kind of how your own dynamic and interaction with the rest of the band has changed over time. Again, was that a conscious decision from your part to do that, or to allow those external opinions to come in?
I mean, a big part. Also, regarding your question to Tobias, I think why we were together for so long time is a big respect to each other. You can trust each other, and you respect everyone's priorities, privacy, and everything. And with that way, you can, if you get feedback, and if it's negative feedback or feedback that you might not want to hear, you can still, because these are my friends, you can still say like, all right, let's work on that together. And that came all the time, because if you know a person like just 1 year or even less, there needs to be some work on trust, on respect first. But we have this, and it's working great.
And I think it also, some of it comes with age as well. You know, as you get older and you get a little wiser. I mean, certainly one of the most important lessons I've learned in my life is, if you really want to help somebody, you'll be honest with them. And it kind of sounds like you sort of came to the same realization. But let's talk about the new record. So it's written. Have you guys recorded anything yet?
The pre-production is finished, so you could actually hear the songs. But there are a couple of things coming up in or not coming up, already present in our private lives that avoid recording it this year. Maybe Nico wants to tell about that, or Tobias also.
I became a father in November, so that changed.
Oh wow! Congratulations!
Thank you.
And is that first time father, or?
Yeah, first time.
All right.
And that changed a lot, of course. But yeah, it's like nothing really changing in my perspective to the band, or like still going on and trying to make everything work.
Lack of sleep will be a problem for a period of time.
But actually I had more sleep today than I had in the whole last half year.
Now you have supposed to go on.
I really enjoyed this, yeah.
Yeah, also for me, I like to fulfill like a dream I had for a very long time. We didn't.
Which is playing Fortress Festival in Scarborough?
The other one. The other dream.
The other dream, alright.
There is no tour, no shows like in after, like, for example, summer festivals or a tour in autumn. So I'd like to try to cycle from my hometown to Partisan, and then to Summer Breeze, and then to Turkey.
Jesus.
Yeah. So and that's also the reason why we won't be able to record the album this year. So we have to do it like in winter, I guess, next year. Because Nico has to prepare as well, and it takes just, I guess, it will take long to prepare and
Might, yeah.
You'll need to get a couple of nights sleep before you start recording. What is just out of interest, what's the total number of miles that you'd be cycling for that?
Oh, miles are like different system that I'm using.
Oh, okay, kilometers.
Like 4,000 or something like this. But I will have plenty of time. So.
Yeah, so that's I'm from South Africa originally, as you might be able to tell from the accent. So that's from where I grew up to Cape Town and back twice, which is fucking crazy. So that's just in terms of like car drive. That's about a 9.5 to 10 hour car journey. Mm-hmm. So over what period of time? Like, and that's from Bloemfontein, where I grew up, to Cape Town is about a 10-hour car journey. So it would be about 40 hours total drive. So over what time frame are you going to be doing that?
I will start in August, and I guess I will finish, or I have to finish at like mid of November, something like that. So a few months.
What gave you this dream to do this? Because it's, I mean, it's admirable. There's no chance on the face of the earth I would ever undertake a dream like that.
To be honest, it started really early. When I was a child, I watched like Pokemon, and they were all like just walking with their backpacks, and they have a sleeping bag with them, and it was always like fascinating for me. And also a friend of mine, she's from Holland. She rode to China and back, so that was just like a huge inspiration. And I also like to cycle, obviously. Yeah.
All right. So once the album gets recorded, can you drop any nuggets on what we can expect from the sound? Is it going to be more experimentation? Have you? I guess are you emboldened by the reception to Nocturn to take it that one step further as far as experimentation is concerned?
I don't want to say, of course, too much about that, but what I can say is that the creation process was very compressed. The whole album was written in just 5 months, I think, which is for me a very short time actually, and that actually, yeah, for my taste, the songs, the album, it has a very prominent flow through the whole album, and everyone who listened to it already said that they could listen from start to finish without thinking like one single minute of boredom or, well, I don't like that riff, it's getting on my nerves or something like that. So it's not as catchy, not at all as catchy as Nocturn. Actually, it contains one of the longest songs and most complex structures that we've ever did. So it will definitely take time, take the listener's time and attention, which is kind of counterproductive to the current times where everything is super fast and a super short attention span. But we want the listeners to pay attention, and we want the people to take their time, because we believe that it can be as rewarding in the end, and that's what art is about. I think it's not art is not about a short minute and that's it, and you forget about that in the next. But it should last a lot more, and that's the goal of this album. Let's see if it works.
I am very much looking forward to hearing what it sounds like. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. I am looking forward to seeing you play later on as well. And to everybody that attended, thank you very, very much. Hope you enjoyed that. Yeah, that's us done. I will be back again tomorrow with Ultha, with Garia, and with Aaron from Wolves in the Throne Room. And Nikita will most certainly talk again when the new album comes out.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah.
Definitely. All right. Cool. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.